Jeremy R. What is your AR maintenance regimen? You both talk about never cleaning, oiling your rifles, but also state that a well-maintained AR runs very well for a long time. Let me clarify what I mean by well-maintained. I actually don't mean cleaning when I say that. I mean regular. If it is a gun that you're depending your life on, what you do is you keep a round count, quite honestly, and you change certain components such as the extractor spring and other elements at interims. That's well-maintained. The cleaning part of it, you tell me what you think, a good AR, a quality AR, if you just put some oil in it once in a while, you never bother cleaning it.
I really haven't bothered cleaning my stoner carbine.
I haven't cleaned my ARs. I don't clean my ARs. I don't clean them. Like if they start feeling a little weird, I go put a little oil in there and just keep on chucking. Like I know the military cleans them, and there's reasons for that. I'm not saying that that's a smart idea for someone that this is my gun that I'm going to depend on in the war. Don't clean it. That's ridiculous. But for me, that's not what I'm dealing with. And my ARs, I haven't cleaned an AR in years. I just, if there's a need, put a little oil, and they continue to work. Like, forever. Like, really.
Yeah, it's true.
So my regimen is, there isn't one.
The one I clean most often is actually my FAMAS, because that thing is filthy.
Well, that's because it's delayed blowback.
Man, that gets dirty fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so, I don't have one. And since these are not like my go-to-war guns that I'm going to have to depend on for the next year and a half in a battlefield, if something goes wrong, that's when I change the springs. But that doesn't change the narrative that if it is a weapon like that, like in U.S. military inventories, if they kept proper round count and changed those minor components based on those, they would run fine forever. That's it. And then the cleaning, actually, some of the cleaning is worse than the wear and tear you put on the gun shooting it.
Don't scrub the chrome out of the bore.
That's a thing. I thought that was lore, and that was real.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Grant M. Repeat question. Would you be interested in mud testing a Galil Ace since it's a sealed AK? Yeah, why wouldn't we be interested? Just don't have one.
Yeah.
But yeah, sure, of course. So funny. Was it shot last? No, the year 2 SHOT shows ago. The Galil Ace was the thing. That was the hot thing. At least one of the hot things.
I think they had just introduced the 308 one.
And this wasn't their fault, but it was funny. They handed it to me to shoot it at shooting day, and I charged it, and that dust cover that came off of a Swiss gun, right?
It's kind of like an FNC.
Yeah. I charged it, and it just goes plop and fell off on the ground, and I went, maybe I'll use the other one. Like, but it was. I'm sure that it's fine, but it was funny. Yeah. Would it work? Would it make it work better in mud? I don't know.
I don't think it would hurt.
Can't hurt.
Oh, it might.
Yeah.
Don't say things like that.
That's true. This one's for you, Keith D. Do you have a good source of parts for French military rifles, specifically rear sight leafs for the MOS 36?
No. Liberty Tree has some stuff. Apex occasionally has some stuff. There is basically no good retail source of French rifle parts because there just weren't that many here in the first place. They show up from time to time. It's a matter of keep your eye on things like Gunbroker and a couple of the bigger parts suppliers. Always look at Numeric, but I don't think they have any of that stuff. But every once in a while, batches of things come in and stuff will show up.
What happened to your rear sight leaf? How does that happen?
The one thing I could think of is the MOS 36 uses the rear sight leaf for zeroing.
Oh.
And so if your gun's not zeroed, you need to find the proper rear sight leaf with a hole drilled in a different position.
But it should have been factory zeroed, right?
Should have been.
Yeah.
The reason though that the barrel band is attached with an armorer-only special screw is because changing tension on the handguard and barrel band adjusts how much pressure is put on the barrel, which impacts your zero, which is why troops were not supposed to disassemble that part of the gun.
Ouch. That just made my brain hurt. All right.
If it don't got a slotted screw, don't fiddle with it.
I also, factory zeros aren't always zeros, but that's another discussion. Heal Team 6. I like that name. Would you briefly entertain and scrutinize the idea of an empty magazine bolt lock mechanism that locks forward instead of backward, with only one round still in the chamber, automatically activating your safety until a new magazine is inserted, allowing for one emergency round to be discharged by manually disengaging the safety during a combat reload, in addition to no longer needing to utilize any sort of bolt release or charging handle during extended use?
Can I answer this one?
Yeah, of course.
No.
Okay. No?
No.
So I could...
The amount of time it took to describe that mechanism is all I need to know to say no.
I get that. What I hear in this is, would it be cool to have something that warned you when you had one round left?
Sure. but not that.
Maybe not this, but maybe something that warned you when you had 1 round left.
Some sort of little magnetic sensor in the follower of the magazine that connected to the rifle, and the little red light went boop when you only have 1 round.
I want an M41A pulse rifle that has a counter on the side. It'd be cool. Yeah. I agree with you. I would not want this either. I think it's too many thingamajigs that cause too many problems.
And for not enough practical benefit.
Austin T. Repeat question. If you lived in a country or state with an arbitrary magazine capacity restriction, what number of rounds would you rather go with 308 instead of 5.56? So, like, for example, if you were restricted to 15 rounds, would you still stick with 5.56 or would you go 308? If you were restricted to only 5 rounds, would you go 308 or 5.56? At what point does it make more sense to just go with a full-size cartridge because at least you have power?
Well, your shot-to-shot time is never going to be, it's always going to be better with the smaller cartridge.
Of course. Must splits. Doesn't matter if you got 5 or 10 or 15 or 100, must splits are the same.
This is true.
But which one does, at what point are you like, well, I might as well just have the bigger gun?
Probably 5.
You think 10 is where you'd be sticking with the 5.56?
Yeah, I think so.
I think my number's a little different. I think at 10, I'd still go with something bigger. At 15, I'd stick with the 5.56.
Okay.
For me. But it is arbitrary, so it's subjective. So at 5, you'd go 308. Above 5. At 10, you'd go with 5.56.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Mine's just slightly above that. Molly, have you tried mating the BRN 180 to the CAV 15 lower from your What Would Stoner Do stuff? How did that work out? I did try it. It doesn't. It works. They function. It's fine. But the BRN 180 being a piston-driven gun with a big old like aluminum free float tube and all that, guess what? All the weight, and I mean all the weight, is in the front. So yeah. The reason the What Would Stoner Do builds are so balanced is because we didn't put all the weight in the front. It's a very balanced rifle with a very low weight lower and a very low weight upper, and you don't have this thing. You put the BRN 180 on there and it goes and it's just all the weight all the time out front.
Yeah.
So not really a good combo. JW, this is for you.
Okay.
Could you describe in detail
Uh-oh.
the process you went through to find and reactivate your DWAT show shot? Yeah. Where is a good place to find DWAT guns to purchase?
You cannot find, there is no stash of DWAT guns.
I thought they're all hidden in the local veterans bar.
Well, there are probably a few still there.
Yeah.
But, so the thing is, a DWAT gun is still registered just like a live machine gun. And that's what makes it valuable, because if a gun has been chopped up or welded solid and not registered, you cannot legally turn it back into a functional machine gun. A DWAT is a specific class of registration, a deactivated war trophy, that was deactivated and registered under the premise that if you register it with us, if we deactivate it, you don't have to pay the transfer tax. And in 1946, $200 is a lot of money.
It was.
And okay, you can keep that that Type 99 Nambu you brought back from Okinawa. We'll just, we're going to plug the chamber. And then we'll register it like the law requires, but you don't have to pay us anything. If you want to keep it and keep shooting it, then you have to pay the $200. So a lot of guns got registered as deactivated. Today, because you can get all the parts you need to reactivate the guns, they sell for 3/4 as much as live guns.
And they're still on the registry because after 86, you couldn't add something to registry.
Exactly.
So since it's on the registry, if you have the wherewithal and the parts, you can fix it.
The thing is, today, the cost of a machine gun, machine gun, 10 or 20 grand. Well, in reality, if you want to break it up, what you're actually paying for is $1,000 worth of gun and $9,000 to $19,000 worth of a tax stamp.
Or less.
Right.
Yeah.
Sten gun, $200 for a parts kit.
Yeah.
The difference between a Sten parts kit and a registered Sten gun is $10,000.
Yep.
And that is the cost of the paperwork. That's what the paperwork is worth.
It's the legal cost.
So, where I found the parts, actually, when I bought my Shosha, it was being sold by the James Julia Auction Company, and it was a deactivated, registered DWAT Shosha with a new barrel assembly and bolt.
Ready to go.
That were intact. And what they had done is they plugged the chamber, welded up the bolt face in the original one, and then they had tack welded. There was just a little bit of weld, maybe more than a tack, but they had a little weld that attached the barrel extension to the receiver tube, so you couldn't take the barrel out. What I did was I pulled all the parts off the receiver. I took a Dremel tool. Actually, first, I submitted a form to ATF to manufacture a machine gun, to reactivate it, paid the $200 tax, waited the 8 months, I think it was. Once I got my stamp back, then pull all the parts off the receiver, take
Dremel.
a Dremel tool to that weld, and I Dremeled it out for a little while.
You did it.
I did it myself, yeah.
Okay.
I was listed as the person remanufacturing.
Oh, yeah, you need to be the one doing it, yeah.
And then I didn't like Dremel the whole thing out. I Dremeled most of the weld away, and then I took a wooden block and a big mallet and went bam on the front of the barrel.
Broke the weld.
Because the barrel's already welded up inside.
Who cares about that?
I don't care if I mess up the crown a little bit.
It's a tomato steak.
Yeah, and the whole barrel assembly went poink and fell out. I used a little bit of file paper. I polished up the edge of that weld, put the new barrel assembly in, put the new bolt in, and then presto, gun works.
Sweet.
It was nice that it had a matching barrel and bolt, so they were already headspace to each other. Some guns that's an issue. Some guns it's really not an issue. For the Shosha, I didn't have to worry about it.
Cool.
That was it.
And you can, sometimes DWATs do show up at like the veterans bar on the wall or whatever. That kind of stuff's a real thing. That was kind of only partially a joke.
Yeah, that's true. And deactivate, there was no legal standard for deactivate a gun. Sometimes they weld up the chamber. Sometimes they put a lead plug in the chamber.
Shove a crayon down the hole.
You joke. I was talking to John Keane, who is the machine gun guy for the Morphe auction.
Yeah, you've done a bunch of interviews with him.
Yeah, fantastic guy, very cool guy, very knowledgeable guy. And he once got a gun in at Morphe's that was papered as a deactivated war trophy, and it had a pencil in the barrel.
Oh, wow. That's almost a crayon.
And he called up the consignor. He's like, what?
Yeah.
What? And the guy said, yeah, there had been like a lead plug or something, and it got loose. And one day he was just dicking around with the gun and, moving the bolt, and the plug went bloop and fell out.
He's like, oh.
And he took a pencil, because it was about the right diameter, and just put it in the barrel and let the bolt on it. And he's like, well, now it's plugged, because the paper said plugged. So I have been told some of the guns have been occasionally deactivated by taking the firing pin out.
Yeah.
I bet you can run into, or you used to, they're probably all been found by now, but like World War I Maxims.
Yep.
The U.S. government gave away a pile of Maxim guns as thank you for your service. Dolph Goldsmith's grandmother, I think, was in the nursing administration during World War I, and they sent her an MG08 on a sled mount. Like, thanks, have this souvenir.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boy, things have changed.
Yeah, and so some of those things, like, they take the lock out.
Yeah.
Well, lock's not a restricted part. You can just go buy a lock.
Yeah, that you can go get on numeric, probably.
Or the one thing they did very commonly on World War I Maxims is they would there's a little a little lever that connects the feed block to the action arms.
Yeah.
So when the barrel goes backward, barrel goes this way, feed block goes that way.
Of course.
That interacting. They take that and they just snap it off.
Nice.
Which, okay, now you've got a single shot machine gun.
Yeah.
And I suspect there were guns out there that were registered as deactivated because that had been done.
Wow.
Like, I ain't a machine gun now.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Matthew J. 32 ACP, what is it good for, aside from being the caliber that all the interesting European pocket pistols of the 20th century were designed around? Well, it's good for shooting stuff.
Yeah.
32 ACP does shoot things.
Yeah.
But it puts a bullet out and hits things. And
I've heard people argue that 32 is a better defensive caliber than 380 if you're using ball. Because 32 will get enough penetration.
380 ball is a good thing, too.
But 32 ball, because it's smaller in diameter, has better penetrating capability.
I don't know. What I can say to this is that both 380 and 32 in ball are more than sufficient to kill a person. So, and we know that, and it was a military cartridge, and there's a reason for that. And what's it good for? It's good for what it was good for, shooting stuff.
Fun cartridge.
It's not 25.
It's too bad it's semi-rimmed.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's an effect. It's capable.
Yeah.
It's at the bottom end of capable, but it's there.
The most important thing about 32 is that you need it for your Scorpion.
Yeah.
You can't use a VZ61 Scorpion if you don't have 32.
Or your cool European pocket pistol.
Yeah.
Or, for that matter, European military pistol from World War I. Jeff K. Repeat. If we are Americans wanting to go to Finnish Brutality, can you guys help with gear? No, cannot. I wish that the answer to that was yes, but it's not a thing. We can't even help ourselves with gear. What happens is we go there and we are all in the good graces of the Finns there to provide stuff to me, or you, or both of us. Yeah. So, I'm sorry. No, can't. eRahja. I know we've done this name before. I apologize. Karl, do you like French firearms? You've said the FAMAS is a good bullpup. What about other French weapons? You laugh. The FAMAS is a good bullpup. Of all the bullpups I've got to shoot, which is kind of all of them with the exception of the SA-80, I haven't messed with that.
You don't want to.
No. And some Chinese thing I probably haven't dealt with either. But
don't want that
but all the other ones, all of them, shot them all. The MDR is shaped up. Like, it's heavy as heck, but it's actually, in 5.56, good gun. 308, I don't know. Actually, I do know. No. 5.56, good gun. The AUG, you know, all the Tavor, the FAMAS, when you got that, I was like, really? Seriously? And then I shot it, and I was like, oh, man. Like, this is one of those instances in which something that's rare in this country is things that are rare are glamorized as being so, the holy grail. This must be the best gun that ever was because it's rare. More often than not, it's one of the worst guns that ever was, and that's why it's rare.
Yeah.
The FAMAS is rare for different reasons because the French doesn't necessarily ship out their surplus stuff and all that. There's reasons that the FAMAS isn't here. And there was that small number from Century Arms. And then getting to shoot yours, I was like, oh, this really is the bullpup that should have been. Like, it really is. And there are things I would improve on it, and they did work on some of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not perfect. But in terms of it's just as it is already, it's an impressive gun.
So what about anything other than the FAMAS?
This is
Do
where
you have a secret stash of Berthier's that you're embarrassed to tell me
This is where
about?
things fall apart for me. And I know that we differ on this. Ian, you've got a collection of French weapons. We've shot them. Some of them are better than others. I have had nothing but bad luck with all the bolts. All of them. The Labels, the Berthiers. I'm like, no. Like, they've broken, failures, malfunctions. Like, I've had nothing but bad luck with French bolt guns. The 49, not bad.
Okay.
That one's okay. Yeah. But I'm not trying to be negative either. I know you like these things. I'm just... So my experience from Moss, good. Other French guns, I'm glad other people enjoy them.
I'll translate.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Aside from the FAMAS, Karl does not particularly like French firearms.
I do
Doesn't
not.
particularly dislike them.
No. The bolt
Most of
guns
them.
I do.
Yeah.
I've never had a good luck with them. I've never. Like, all of them. They've all been a struggle. So... And the Moss 36, it's just me, that crazy bolt handle, man, that just beats the shit out of my thumb. Like, I don't know what it is about the way I run bolts, but I know that's supposed to be a benefit. That thing, bam, like, like every time.
You're shooting it wrong-handed.
Oh, it's like an iPhone, I'm holding it wrong?
Clearly.
Yeah, okay, so the Moss 36, I'm holding it wrong. The Label, you gotta like manhandle it to get it to chamber rounds. I'm like, it's kind of weird. And the Berthier, I don't want 3 rounds, and 5 rounds isn't all that much better than that thing. So, no. LoadSabot, second time asking. I notice you use ALG triggers in pretty much all your AKs. Have you had any excessive wear or damage caused by them, and how do you mitigate this? Well, I don't use them in all of my AKs. I only have them in one of my AKs, which is my that crazy gamer build one. That one has one in it. All my other AKs have standard triggers in them. Mostly Tapco G2s, actually. I have not had any issues with the ALG trigger causing excessive wear or damage at all, with the exception of one that isn't mine. There's a video that's not out on the channel yet in which we got loaned guns. And the guy that loaned us an AK, the one I got, malfunctioned throughout the entire event, and it turned out he had a broken ALG trigger in it. I have never seen an ALG trigger break before. That one, mine is not broken. I love them. But you have to put the extra spring in to increase the trigger pressure because you don't want a 1-pound trigger on an AK.
Yeah.
But no, I haven't had any problems with it. Oh, wow, this is funny. I mentioned this earlier, and it's coming up as a question. Sort of. Anthony H., we often see the SVD compared to sniper rifles. But what about comparing it to battle rifles? It's actually a better comparison, although it's the DMR. Would you consider testing an SVD with iron sights against like a FAL, G3, or AR-10 in drills? Absolutely. I think that'd be fun.
I think all you need is someone to present the opportunity.
I think that'd be great. Yeah, I'll totally do that. I'm planning on doing some more matches with the SVD as well, although every time I bring out my SVD, I'm told it's not real because it's in 308. So, oh well. Do you think that, let me ask that. And this is okay, your answers, give whatever you think is appropriate. I realize that's a Chinese variant. I get that, NDM86. And you have a video on Forgotten Weapons showing the differences. There's differences, but mechanically and functionally, no. Like, some manufacturing differences, but what they do is the same.
The complaint that you're getting is people who expect the gun to be one MOA, and they're looking for an explanation why it isn't.
Is that
and
all it
they're
is?
coming
Because
up with, well, it must not be correct
because
it's
308?
not shooting MOA, one MOA. Therefore, what's different about it? It's an NDM86 and 308. Okay, therefore,
is it as
the
simple
real SVD must be a 1 minute of angle gun. Therefore, yours is not a real SVD.
as that? Is that what that is?
I suspect so.
because it is an SVD. It just happens to be in 308. And by the way, that makes a lot of sense. And if you look at the options for 54R here versus 308, there's a reason. And if you look at the ballistic charts for military 54R and 308, not that different. Zayernot. Asked this last time, and I'm still curious. Sorry, we're getting to it now. Have you ever considered testing volley fire, even if it is totally useless in combat? I would be curious to know whether a dozen men with M1s could actually hit anything over 1,000 yards, or other factors would mean dispersion is too large to hit a platoon area.
I'd love to.
I'd love to, too.
When I had my Vickers gun, I really wanted to do some testing of indirect fire.
Sure.
The problem comes down to how, like the logistics of doing it.
A place where you can just, like, launch bullets in that general direction is one.
It's minimum 1,000 yards.
Oh, that's
and I would want like 1,500 to do it properly.
Oh, if not more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Lee Enfields are about the only thing that's going to go much over 1,500.
Okay.
Because they've got the volley sights.
I'd want to do it with like old 4570s and stuff. But, yeah.
The problem is, how do you assess your hits? You're talking about basically you have a target that is half a mile away, a kilometer away.
Yeah.
More than a kilometer. Maybe a mile away, actually, to be right on.
Fully.
So you need to have a way to record hits a mile away. We know that this results in a wide dispersion of fire.
Yes.
So you have to be able to find hits. Like, do you have a piece of paper that's 100 yards square? Because that's kind of like
you would need that, and then you go out there and you look for like the holes or whatever.
But you can't do that.
No.
Like, that's totally impractical. In theory, you would want, like, there's probably some military range out there.
Oh, yeah.
That has a radar system where you could do it and then look at the display and they'd be like, doop, 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 doop.
Radar, Doppler radar.
Something like
Doppler
that.
radar would do it.
And, of course, you then also need that many people to do it with. I think it'd be awesome to do, and unfortunately, I think it's totally impractical.
What about just a whole bunch of volunteers downrange and they radio in as people start falling?
Also impractical.
Oh, that doesn't work either?
It could.
You could do that. There are countries you could do that.
I'd rather not go to those countries.
At this, I'll answer that better. I would rather not do that because I don't want to just randomly fire in a direction of people over the range. I was making a joke. But yes, the point is, it is a very impractical thing to test.
I wish it weren't.
I think it's a real thing.
Oh, it's absolutely a real thing. There's well-documented information about it. It does happen. It did, like, for what it was intended to do, it works. People see the, 2,600-yard sights on a Lee Enfield. They're like, you'll never hit a guy.
That's not the point. You wouldn't. But the whole platoon might, or the whole division going bop, 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 and then you're over there and you're like, oh my God, it's raining lead.
When the observer plane radios back, or drops a note, like, there's a division of Germans marching through this crossroads. We know exactly where it is, and you're within volley fire range. Get 100 guys and volley fire into that.
Have at it.
I bet they stop marching through the crossroads.
And there's a chance some of them...
they're going to lose a couple of guys in the process.
A couple of them will get tagged.
So you say, okay, a couple of guys, that's pointless. Well, what if that's the reinforcements that are trying to seal up the hole that your other guys down the line have just broken in the enemy lines? Now the reinforcements can't get through because they're not willing to walk through what is kind of effectively an aerial minefield. Like, this is potentially a valuable tool in limited circumstances.
It's funny, in a way this made me think of a story. There's actually an old video on InRange about the Battle of K.H. Butte.
Yeah.
It was during one of, actually the last and most significant of Geronimo's breakouts.
The least deadly battle the U.S. Army was ever in.
But it's crazy because they accidentally used volley fire on each other in a way.
Kind of, yeah.
So the Apache forces were on elevated ground, and the cavalry forces were on depressed ground, and this went on for a full 24 hours. But what they didn't know, because people were trained exactly nothing, they had zero training. They would just look at the site and maybe point in the direction and pull the trigger. Ballistics, what's that? And even if they knew, okay, and the distances were long, most of the engagements at that battle were 600 yards with 45-70s or 50-70s. But when you aim, even if you dialed in, okay, that guy's 600 yards away and you dialed in 6 because you were a pretty switched on marksman, angle of fire changes that, and they all shot over each other for 24 hours. Except that what finally happened is the Apaches came in and on the flank and got close and killed some guys and then booked. But they shot at each other endlessly, and in a way they were volley firing over each other. In a way. That just made me think of that. It's kind of funny. All right. Michael O. How do you feel about sporterized Enfields or other milsurps? Do you have the urge to save them by restoration to original, or are they just cheap tools to you?
I have learned better than to try to save them.
Yeah.
The problem is, if you really want to be serious as a collector, it's almost impossible to restore you can't 100% restore a sporterized arm, because certainly when it comes to French, the stocks are serial numbered. So if I'm going to replace the stock, well, now I potentially could have had a matched gun and now it's permanently mismatched. In theory, you might be able to splice the front end onto a matching stock, maybe. Again, on the French guns, the clearing rod was serialized. Maybe I can find a rod. Maybe I can get a.
So you're looking for
rod.
Matching now, not just fixing the gun. That's
Yeah.
a little bit different.
It is. It's a little bit different, but you run into this. The guys who are restoring Japanese rifles.
Yeah.
Stocks aren't serial numbered, but they are proof stamped. You need to have the stock from the right arsenal and series.
Yep.
Which you can do theoretically, but it's hard. Like, you have to find the right stock, and it's doubly tricky because most of the time, if someone's selling a stock, they don't know that little bit of minutia. They're just going to, here's an Arasaka stock, and their pictures aren't going to be detailed enough to show you that data.
Yep.
What I have found is that it is never, as a collector, it's always more expensive to try and save the sporterized gun than to just wait, find one that's still intact, and buy that one.
My thought is I have no urge to save them, nor are they cheap tools. They're just garbage. Because the price you're going to pay for a sporterized thing, you could, if you just wanted a cheap tool, don't buy that.
That's true.
Go down to Walmart, pick up the Savage that's on the rack with a scope on it. You have a gun that's already better than that thing was before it was sporterized, probably.
Yeah.
And you spent less money, less heartache. So there was a time and place and day where those things were sporterized because that was the cheap thing to do.
Yeah.
Now, in 2019,
anymore.
sporterized milsurps are garbage. Chance H, repeat ask. This one's come up more than once, so I'm finally putting it in because the reason I didn't bring this in is I just didn't know what to say to it, so maybe you have something.
Okay.
Thoughts on big bore AR cartridges, 450, 458, 50 cal, etc.?
I really know nothing about them. I don't think I've ever used any of them.
I don't, unless you're using it for hunting.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Didn't the Coast Guard adopt 458
For a
SOCOM
line thrower or something?
No, I thought they had something like they had ARs, but they wanted low penetration, so they're not shooting through 5 bulkheads on a ship.
I don't know. I've never heard
Maybe
this.
I'm misremembering.
You
that,
you might be right.
But
There is 458 SOCOM. That's a
Yeah.
thing. I don't know. The idea of a low capacity, super big bullet AR to me is like,
I suppose prior to 300 blackout, it's a good option if you have to be subsonic and suppressed.
yeah, big bullets are cool.
I mean, well, but you can't do. There really is no subsonic 5.56.
Well, and if it is, why?
Yeah,
like,
if
it's
you
like,
want a
you're
subsonic
like,
AR,
ow, even 5.7 isn't subsonic.
right?
So
if you want a subsonic AR,
yeah,
and you don't have 300, okay, the 45 caliber stuff. I
okay.
can see that, I guess, but I've never used them.
To me, that's
no practical
to me that
knowledge
all
on
makes that's like a hunting thing. If you're like into like going to shoot, if you want to go hunt elk with your AR, then maybe 50 Beowulf's cool.
I don't know.
But
I just really don't know.
that's why it hasn't been handled, because the thoughts we have on it are I knew we were going to be the same. We're like, eh? Matthew H, have you ever considered franchising the brutality matches beyond Desert or Finished Brutality to expand it geographically and give us more punishment throughout the year? I don't know about the word franchising, but I am looking to expand it to have more of them. This is something we're actively working on. So we've got the match coming up, which is Desert Brutality in late January, early February 2020. August, I forgot the exact dates, we're going to have Finished Brutality. There's the potential of having 2 Finished Brutalities. And there are discussions, let's put it this way, to have other matches later in 2020 in the southeastern and maybe even northeastern regions. So franchising isn't the word. It would be run by InRange, but it would be a brutality match more geographically distributed. I would like to, if I could get my way, I would love to run 4 of these domestically per year.
Cool.
Regionally.
Yeah.
That's a goal. Erick S. Given some of the issues with open emitter red dot sights like the Holosun 510C and adverse conditions, by the way, you didn't get to make it to Finished Brutality. That happened to Rudy. Rudy Reyes in the match. He had a lowered gun and had a Holosun that's a emitter, and it rained. And the water went into the emitter and then got on the laser emitter, and then he couldn't see the reticle, and then the lens fogged. So when he put up the irons,
Couldn't see the irons through the red dot.
couldn't hit anything. He was screwed. And
That's
right
not
there,
good.
the first time I saw that, I'm like, in Arizona, I've never seen that happen. I saw it happen in Finland. I'm like, never that. And guess what? Aim points and closed red dots don't do this.
Right.
Are there advantages over closed tube designs like the aim points? Yes. Yes. Those open emitters are a bad idea in general, and there's very few reasons that you should have one if you can have a closed tube alternative. Even on pistols. We've had the Delta Point Pros for a long time, been happy with them. Now that the Acro's out, bye-bye Delta Point Pro, because that's what we had to use until Aimpoint brought us something to the market that was a closed tube.
Yeah.
Always closed tube. If you can do it, do it. I cannot perceive the advantage of an open emitter. Do you have any idea why?
Maybe they're lighter, but that's irrelevant.
An ounce?
Yeah, then not. I got nothing to add to that. You covered that one.
Don't do it. Last question. The hardest one.
Oh, boy.
Charles E. Scotch or bourbon?
Scotch.
Bourbon.
Karl is once again wrong. I'm sorry, guys. It just is.
Okay, I'll accept it. Well, that's it. That was fun.
You're not going to even defend bourbon?
No, I'm good. You can drink that peaty gross stuff. I'll drink the bourbon.
Yes.
I hate that flavor to me is you know what? That's an interesting thing. Everybody finds what they like, right? Mm-hmm. And bourbon wouldn't be my first choice of alcohol anyway. If I had other choices, there'd be others. Bourbon is something I do like. Scotch, that peaty flavor, no. And it's like, to me, like hoppy beer. I'm not a beer drinker either, but like hoppy beer is like the worst of something I don't like already. And that peat flavor, which I know you like that.
I do. I
really hate it.
I was going to say, there's a bit of a misconception that all Scotch is peated.
That's true.
Because it's not.
But you like that.
In this case, I really like heavily peated Scotch. So.
Mm. But like, wait, so what is it? You think it's is it a smoky thing?
Yeah.
See, now that's funny.
I really like that flavor.
Because guess what? I love Mezcal.
Yeah, and there's some really smoky.
And Mezcal is very smoky, or frequently can be very smoky. There is some Mezcal that tastes like Band-Aids. That you like, if you took a bottle of Popov and just filled it with Band-Aids and let it like ferment. Some Mezcal tastes like Band-Aids. But most Mezcal, I really like Mezcal in general. And Mezcal is a really wonderful, wonderful thing. But that's smoky. And Scotch, I think of as peaty and smoky. And the smoky in Scotch doesn't do the same thing. Maybe it's the way it's smoked.
You know, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I can't explain your lack of taste.
I understand.
I will point out, not only do I like smoky Scotch, I also like smoky tea. I have some Russian Caravan tea that I've added to some. It's pretty intense stuff if you use it straight, but you can add it to other loose tea, and I really like that too.
Okay. Well, I'm not against smoky flavors. Scotch doesn't work for me.
Like I said, I'm sorry, guys.
But you don't dislike bourbon.
No, not at all.
And you like Mezcal too, right?
I do.
Mezcal or tequila?
I like everything except your favorite.
Mezcal or tequila?
Ooh. Honestly, I would say there's too much variation in both to say, like...
In the broadest terms. I know it's A-R-A-K, but which one?
I don't know. I don't have enough experience drinking them.
I go with Mezcal.
I figured you would say
And
that.
here's the reason I do that. Tequila, boy, we're getting into a different topic here, in my opinion. So, these guys come across from Europe, Spaniards come to this continent, and they find indigenous people making alcohol, which ultimately was the Mezcal. Mezcal means roasted agave, by the way. It can be a food as well as a booze.
Mezcal is like a generic form. All tequila is also mezcal.
Fair.
Mezcal is not tequila. Tequila is a subset.
I'm getting there. So they find this stuff, and so by the way, roasted. If you take an agave heart and roast it, oh, it's delicious. And that's not booze. That's just the plant heart roasted is delicious. Tastes like candied pineapple or something. It's really good. And then that's fermented, and it's a very quick fermentation process to make mezcal. It's kind of raw, not very refined, smoky. It has a lot of the flavor of whatever it was produced from and in. So the rain conditions that year, that particular agave species, the dirt,
terroir,
all that stuff makes mezcal there's a lot of uniqueness to every mezcal. And one particular little ranch's mezcal one year might be different than the next for those reasons. Mm-hmm. Tequila is when, in my opinion, this is not completely historically accurate, but here's how I'm going to take it. The European influence was, we're going to take that refined garbage and we're going to refine it. And they made this refined product, tequila. And I think tequila has been refined to the point where it's like, I'd rather have the raw, brutal mezcal.
Okay.
That's my take.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, is it not true that there are still small batch producers of tequila that make that style?
There are, but I feel, yes, but tequila is always has more distillation process than mezcal.
Okay.
So it's a cleaned up thing. And like Mezcal, like there's a Mezcal here in Tucson. Like Mezcal's becoming a popular thing now.
Yeah, it is.
It used to be just a not.
That shit with the worm in it.
The worm thing's that's a urban
that's-
myth too. That's not real. If there's Mezcal, if there's worm in your tequila or Mezcal, that stuff's bullshit, by the way.
Throw it out.
Yeah. But like you used to go down here and like you could get a jug from the right guy. Like no joke, stuff was rad.
Yeah.
But you look at it, and it was kind of got some sediment in it, and but it was fantastic. And Mezcal is seeing
The finest in drinks that make you blind.
Oh, but it was fine. But it was great. It was really good stuff. I mean, a lot of these are family traditions. Like the ranch has been making Mezcal for 100 years or whatever. And
This is like grappa.
yeah,
Like, what's the other one? Yeah.
but there's a renaissance going on. Mezcal, you now find was like, oh, I was in Helsinki and there was Mezcal on the shelf. I'm like, things are changing, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a little worried that that's going to turn into another tequila where the refinement and corporate interest in it to make it a more palatable and bigger product will ruin that raw, kind of brutal thing that it has. I don't know. I hope it doesn't.
Yeah.
Anyways, wow, that was off topic. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Again, this is all supported by Patreon. It's completely, InRange is completely funded by viewer support. It's you guys via Patreon and your support, $1 and above, that keep this channel alive. No advertiser money and no monetization from any sponsors besides you, the viewer. If you're doing it already, some of your questions might have been here. If they weren't, ask them again. Let me know and we'll try to get to them. If you can't totally get it, just subscribe to the channel and share with your friends. You can find us on multiple distribution points on InRange.tv. Thanks for watching.